Namaste and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. And this show is getting recorded from Brazil and hosted live from Brazil. And Sat means truth, Logos means a study or science, Sattology means a science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means a science of fake lie imagination or a study of fake lie imagination. We mythology word has been used by the Western academics for anything which is not Western. When I mean by Western, that means Christian or Catholic. I know there is a difference between Christian and Catholic, but this is called the Western world. When we say Western academic world, means the critical faith theory, which is that predominance of Christian or Catholic faith over any other faith. So they call theirs as accepting theirs, they call everything else as mythology. So today is a exciting topic which is chosen by our guest. She's very famous on the social media and also she has published very good books. So without delay, let us welcome Shri Deepali Patwadkar.
Namaste Aditya ji. It's so good to be back on Sattology channel. Thank you for inviting me.
You are putting the entire social media on fire by your messages, and people are responding widely to your talks and other places. So when we say about games and toys, and we all know that in the ancient Vedic culture, the stories were there, animal based or plant based stories were there to teach morality to small children. And also there were figurines created. Children have been playing from way time immemorial. When a Western academic says it was Iron Age and all this is, does it make sense to you? I never made sense to me. Iron Age, Copper Age, Silver Age. And so before we start off, we'll discuss how useless that classification of Western academics is.
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense, as like even if we look at monkeys, we would probably see that the parent monkeys would give something to their kids to play with. So or we see this is such an ancient behavior. We really cannot say that it started with Iron Age or with some time. It must be as old as the human race is. And Aditya ji, you mentioned about this classification you don't agree with. Can you tell more about it? Maybe until then I will just continue with the topic which I have selected. And this topic today I'm going to talk about is the games and different kinds of toys that have been used by children or that have been given to children to play with since the ancient times. And I'm going to compare the Indian games with the Western world. So this is how today's talk is going to be. Aditya ji, you're all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Actually, the when we were talking, when you said the Iron Age classification, the Bronze Age and the Copper Age, these classifications were done according. What I feel is that were randomly chosen, because I feel that at different points of time humanity has used tools and used all kinds of processes. Otherwise, how would pyramids come about? How would such a beautiful temples in India be built, or even Mexico? Huge temples are built, and if people were not developed, how could have they ever done that? So this classification to show that the entire culture was brought by the Western world, the Western world civilized the rest of the world. I think that's where the classification is coming from, because historically speaking, the Western academics has worked to justify the Western faith industry. And so they had to create these classifications so that the rest of the world starts listening to them more than anyone else. I don't think so that even in the Africa, people were living their life, toys were there, children had tools, children were getting educated, may not be on the Western model, but they were getting educated. There are different mediums of communication for education. So just to show that we were more civilized than you, so they had to come up with all these theories. Do you agree or not on that one?
Yeah, pretty much. Because if one is to ask some native people about their history of humanity, they wouldn't really start with naming those ages. They will not uh, date anything. They will just say it will be oral tradition. And this kind of oral tradition existed among the Red Indians, and it has existed in the cultures of Africa, and it has existed even in the early Greek culture,
Right.
and it has existed in India. It is only when like this, the Western, what can you say, Western academics came, they started giving too much importance to the written word.
Mhm.
And it is only after that thought came in that the history uh, became not the oral tradition but the written word,
Yeah,
and that makes the difference.
the copper was being used thousands of years back. There are references in Mahabharata, Ramayana. Iron was being used thousands of years back, referenced by Mahabharata, Ramayana, and other Purana also. The precious metals, the importance of precious metals has been used from time immemorial. The toys being used to teach children morality and how to live harmoniously in the society has been used time immemorial. So when we really, when they really talk about that, the Western world gave all these civilizing tools to the rest of the people. And like in Brazil, if you see that there is no history before 1493 or 1300, there's no history. The ancient
Because it is
history of
all oral.
all oral, but
Yeah,
I
so
think
so it becomes so it is wiped out.
wiped out.
It doesn't hold true in the Western concept of believing only in the written word. Then nothing was existing before the scripts were invented and things were written down.
Like before Portuguese came, Brazil was a uncivilized territory. So this is what they're being taught, and all their whatever Brazil has today has been brought over from Europe. Nothing they had. It means as if like there was no human beings living there, but there are ancient farm communities, the ancient people
Yes.
with more holistic lifestyle. And today, what we are seeing is urban poverty. Everything is urban centered, and anything outside the cities is all backward. Like that whole concept is outside the city being backward is itself a wrong idea, isn't it? What do you feel?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think even in the earlier times, the cities were also more nearer to the nature.
Right.
So they had these, running waters, and basically what American cultures had were gutters. And when the European people came to Brazil and to Mexico, they were so surprised to find this because Europe didn't have this concept. And what the European streets were basically acting as gutters. So that was the first thing that the Europeans were surprised about. So this it is actually something that Brazil and Mexico and South America has taught Europeans.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, we get started now, Dipaliji,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
sure you can share your slides. And meanwhile, the topic is games and toys people have played from time immemorial. It's not that
yeah.
today. And really it's games we will play also and everywhere else. And the biggest game has been the colonizing game, which has destroyed
You,
so many natives of the world.
absolutely, yeah.
You can.
So this title is to be taken literary as games people actually play, and it is also a political game which people have played. So without much ado, I'll start with this presentation so that you can see it on your screen. So what are toys? I thought the first thing I should do is I should define what a toy or what a game is. So these are some things which are given to the children, and children play with these things and they learn something from it. So what do the elders, the adults in the community give to the children? They give whatever they have. So the games and toys that young ones play, they are but a miniature models of the trades and the practices of the adults. and of the wise adults in that community. So this is the core topic for today. This is the core idea for today, that in the games, whatever games the children are playing, in those games, we will see the society. We will see what is the philosophy of that society, what are the thoughts in that society. And with this idea that the games are but a miniature reflection of adult behavior, let us see what the ancient games were in India. I'm going to speak about the Indian games, and I'll compare them with the Western games, modern games. So, to start with, these are some terracotta toys which have been found in the sites of Saraswati Sindhu civilization. And these are some lovely bullock carts, and there is a hand pull cart, and there is a master ship. And these toys are from 5,000 years ago, so 3000 BCE, from those times, and they're as good as new. So when we are looking at a toy like this cart, which is being pulled by a pair of bullocks, the children, they get a toy like this because there are actual bullock carts that are being used by the people of Saraswati Sindhu civilization. See, here is one bullock cart which is exactly like the Saraswati Sindhu bullock cart. Same model, and even today, such bullock carts are found in India. So this culture continues, and we can say, this is a miniature model of reality. So all the games, all the toys, they are a miniature model of the real devices out there. Here are some more toys from Saraswati Sindhu, and here you will see a small kitchen set, a very miniature one. Same over here. All these pieces are from museums, and here you can also see some dolls. So there are men and women, and there is this mother and child. So these dolls are also they are miniature models of real people. So they are dressed exactly like the real people at those times. So they are wearing turbans, and this lady, she is having this elaborate hairstyle. And we come to know from the literature of ancient India that being a hairstylist was an occupation from very ancient times, and it was a very developed occupation. And this hairstyle of this doll tells the same thing. It's a very advanced and a complicated hairstyle. So these are different kinds of toys that we see from 5,000 years ago. And these are toys from today. So there are cars, and there is this miniature kitchen set, and there are dolls. And in all of this, you will see a reflection of today's society. So because we have actual cars, the children are playing with these toys, with these toy cars. And because we have an actual kitchen like this, the child gets a miniature kitchen set. And even in these dolls, you will see that the hairstyles and their clothing is exactly the way it is in the society. The way adults dress themselves, the dolls also dress themselves like that. So the games and toys are a reflection of adult behavior. So let's see one or two games from ancient India, and how they reflect the Indian life in those games. So here is a board game called as Mokshapatam, or it is called Mokshapatam. And it is a board game. It has a grid. It has multiple squares. It has about 100 squares, you can say, and children will take turns to roll the dice. And then based on whatever number they get on the dice, they will move their piece ahead in this board game. It will move from one square to the next square. And every square, it has a name. So it is not just numbered 1 to 100, say, but it is also named with a virtue or a vice. And the goal of this game is basically to reach the last square, which is called as the moksha. The last square is moksha. So this game itself is called as the Mokshapatam. Pata is a board. So this is moksha board. And the twist in this game is there are some ladders and there are some snakes in these squares. So whenever a square has a virtue like faith, reliability, generosity, knowledge, all these things, they will have a ladder, so that the person who has virtue will advance quickly in this game. And then there are some squares which will have snakes. So all those squares which have vices like, disobedience, arrogance, stealing, lying, addiction, debt, or the Shadripu, the 6 enemies of a person like anger, greed, jealousy, calm, too many desires. So all of these are vices, and such squares, they will have a snake. So as soon as the piece reaches a square which has a snake, the snake will eat that piece and it will roll down, and the person, the player, will be moving back. So with the roll of the dice, the players are moving ahead. They go further with ladders, they advance, and if they encounter a snake, they just come behind. So this game, basically, it is a miniature model again, and it is also called, it has multiple names. It is also called as Gyan Chaupar. Gyan Chaupar is a board, and Gyan is wisdom. So this is a game which teaches wisdom. It is also called Paramapada Sopan, meaning it is the ultimate, it is a ladder of ultimate location. So a ladder that takes you to the ultimate location, which is moksha. Paramapada is moksha. So these are other names for this game. And what this game basically is doing is, it is teaching the philosophy of the wise adults in this society to the children. So what is this philosophy which is being taught in a miniature form? So this philosophy is the karma siddhanta, so the philosophy of karma and the cycles of birth and rebirth. So let's take a look at what this philosophy is. So first, the karma siddhanta. What is the karma? So the philosophy, the Indian philosophy, which is accepted by all the various sects of India, like whether they are Hindus, whether they are Buddhist, whether they are Sikh, whether they are Jain, all of them accept this philosophy. And it says that karma is your thoughts, your words, and your deeds. Anything that you say, anything that you do, and all your thinking is a karma. Every karma has it has an action associated with it and intent. Why are you doing something? What is your intent? The intent also has to be great. So if your intent is bad but your action is good, it is a bad karma. So if you're helping your friend just so that tomorrow he should help you in return, your intent is wrong, and then this is a bad karma. Even if you're helping somebody, even if you're doing something good for that person, because your intent is not right, this is a bad karma. Karma also speaks about your involvement in doing a particular karma and your attachment to its results. If you're doing something to gain something, if you are attached to the gains of that action, then it is not a good karma. And if you're not involved in what you're doing, if you are if you are not doing your task with skills, with all your talent, you are not involved in it, you're not emotionally also involved in it, even then this karma is going to bind you. This is what the karma siddhanta says. It says that work is worship. You should do your work as if you are worshipping your god, and you should do your work without any expectations. So karma is not just a siddhanta. It is not just a theory which says that you do good, good will happen to you. You do bad, and bad will come back to you. It is not just that, but it is also a yoga. Yoga is something which joins, if it joins the devotee to the god. So karma is also a yoga which joins the doer to the divine energy. So karma is a very great philosophical argument which teaches duties and responsibilities, and at the same time it tells don't expect anything in return. So this is the karma, and to this karma there is the cycle of birth and the death which is connected. So whatever karma we do, it goes into our bank, it goes into a bank account, and that account is called as a sanchit karma. So every time a atma takes birth, the atma will take with it something from the sanchit karma. All those karma which haven't which haven't yielded fruit, the atma will bring those with it. This is then it is called as the prarabdha karma. And this withdrawn karma, it will be used throughout the life. And when it is exhausted, there is death. At death, again what happens is everything that is done during this birth, from birth to death, during this lifetime, all of it which is not used, that karma will again go into the main account, into this bank, which is again sanchit karma. So this is the cycle of birth and rebirth. Every time the atma is going to take something from the bank, use it up, and while using it, it's going to do some more karma, by which it is going to gain more of karma. It again goes back into this bank. So this is a cycle. This is a cycle of birth and death. And the goal for every human being is to break this cycle, become free from this cycle of birth and death. And this freedom is called as moksha. So an atma is going to take life in different forms and have different names. So in this lifetime, I am I'm called Deepali, I have this form and I have this name, but then maybe in the next birth I might be somewhere else, I might be having different name. And the birth can also be of any animal, any plant, any insect. So this is the cycle of birth and death, and this has to be broken. Once this is broken, it is said that the atma has achieved moksha. So this is the philosophy of karma, of good and bad deeds, of the cycle of life and death, and the escape from this cycle, which is moksha. And now we come back to the game, which is Mokshapatam. This game is a miniature model of this great philosophy. It's a simple model. What it starts with utpatti. It starts over here in the first square. It is Utpatti, which is beginning, and the last square is Moksha. And in between, there are births and deaths. So there is advancement and there is these pieces which are coming back. So this is the cycle of birth and death. Between start and end, which is moksha. And all the players, their goal is to achieve moksha. Every player's goal is to achieve moksha, which is the last square. So what happens in this game? Every good karma, every virtue, kindness, generosity, it will take that player steps ahead with the ladder. And every bad karma, disobedience, being arrogant, getting angry for virtually nothings, all these things will bring the player back. So the players, the children, they learn that good things take you ahead in life and bad karma take you farther away. And lastly, when all of this goes back, the peace has achieved moksha. So this is the Mokshapatam. So when you're looking at it, it is such a simple and a sweet game. And every time the player rolls a dice, it's a fun game. The pieces move ahead, they come back, and there is so much excitement. And through all of this, the children learn about karma, they learn about the life cycles of life and death, and they know it for sure that the greatest goal is moksha, and that moksha can be achieved with good karma. So this is the small model of the society. So that was one game, Mokshapatam. I would like to take one more game. This is an ancient game from India, Chaturanga. So as you can guess, looking at it, you can tell this is a war game. So a Chaturanga is a game of battle between two kings. And each of these kings, they have 4 divisions of their army. So these 4 divisions are Ashwa, which is cavalry, Gaja, which is an elephant division. Then there is Ratha, which is chariots, Padati, the infantry, and along with that, the king and his minister. So these are the different pieces in each of these armies. It is called Chaturanga basically because these are the 4 Char Anga. So these are the 4 divisions. And this game basically you can see is a very ancient game. So ancient that those were the times when chariots were used in battles. And this is how the Indian army was until the Middle Ages. So again, this Chaturanga is a miniature version of the battles that the Indian kings used to play. So these Indian battles, they were called as Dharma Yuddha. Even the Yuddha was a Dharmic Yuddha. Dharma Yuddha, it's not Dharmic, it is Dharma Yuddha, meaning that it had with it associated many rules and regulations. So for a Dharma Yuddha, the rules were like this, nobody should attack before sunrise. So no attacks at night, no attacks when it is dark. And then it was prohibited to use arrows which were dipped in poison, or it was prohibited to use arrows which were lighted with fire. And if anybody is fleeing from the battlefield, that person shouldn't be killed. And then those people who are who is the staff, who are helping the army, who are providing material, who are providing weapons, who are taking care of those who are wounded, they should not be attacked. The charioteer shouldn't be attacked. And the battle is only between the armies. Nobody outside the battlefield, the common people, they will not be attacked. And this has been like, it has been seen. There are accounts of Indian battles where two Indian kings, they are fighting with each other on the battlefield, and just a little distance away, the common people, they are doing their work in the farms, they are doing their work in the fields without being attacked, without any fear. So these are the pictures of ancient India. And that is why we see a war game which is exactly based on such rules and regulations. And one more thing, which is a Indian thing about the battles, is that the defeated king was never killed. And this is exactly what we see in today's game of chess. The defeated king is never killed. He is only given a check. The last step is checkmate. And that is where the game stops. A king is never killed. It comes from this ancient Indian practice that the defeated king shouldn't be killed. And we see that all these rules, they come even in chess. Let us see how this game traveled from India. So in the Middle Ages, this game went from India to Arabia, and then later on from Arabia to Europe. So the Arabians, they knew about chariots and elephants in the army. But by the time it reached the shores of Europe, Europeans were not aware of elephants. And that is why that piece, they couldn't make out what piece it was actually. And then it came to be known as bishop. So there is a bishop in the chess set. So these are some interesting changes which happened. Even the chariot, it changed, and yeah, and the minister became the queen. So these were some changes which happened by the time chess left India. Rather, it was Chaturanga that left India. It came to be called as Shatrang in Arabia, and by the time it reached Europe, it was called as chess. So we see that both of these games, we see that they are rooted in Dharma. Dharma is the sense of responsibility, sense of duty, a sense of morality, a sense of ethics. This is the foundation of any person. So we see the same thing in both of these games. There is a foundation of ethics and morality. Both of these games, they teach something. Chess teaches, how a battle should be. It teaches the rules of battle. Whereas Mokshapatam, which we saw earlier, it teaches philosophy. It teaches how to live. It teaches that one should pursue virtues to go ahead in life. It teaches that moksha is the ultimate goal of life. And chess, even if it is a war game, it came with very strict rules and fair rules. So this war game of chess, you will see that both the parties, they have the same power. When they are starting, they have the same power. Both of them, they have to follow the same rules. So this is the reflection of the trade and practices of the wise people of ancient India. That is what these games reflect. So with this background of some ancient Indian games, we will take a look at some of the modern Western games. And these are very popular games. One of them is Treasure Hunt. And so many of them, even the online games, many are on in this genre of hunting for some treasure, finding some treasure. So here you see that the ultimate goal of this game is treasure. In Mokshapatam, the ultimate goal is moksha. It is a philosophical goal. It is a personal goal. Whereas here In hunting for a treasure, the goal is finding some treasure, finding some wealth. This is a materialistic goal. There is another genre of games which is loot, games based on loot. And this is it. It says, like, there is this person, this personality, he has to, like, loot some treasure. So how will he do it? These are the kind of games which are very popular. So many games are on these lines where the player has to find the treasure. In this, the problem is it doesn't say whose treasure it is. Somebody has earned that treasure, somebody has collected that treasure and hidden it somewhere. Who is that somebody? The game does not address that. The game does say that, it is implicit that the treasure belongs to somebody else. It is implicit. But the players, they don't care whose treasure it is. And the philosophy of this game is the finders get to keep it. The finders are winners. And in some of the online games, if there are any guards who are protecting the treasure, they are to be killed. This is the kind of modern Western game. What is it teaching? Is it teaching that it is okay to steal? Is it okay to loot, even if it belongs to somebody else? So this basically is a miniature version of the colonial mindset. The colonial mindset was, if you discover a continent, if you discover a new island, if you discover a new land, you get to keep it. You become the owner of that land. And you become you can rule it. You can make those natives your slaves. That is what that was told by the Pope in one of his bulls. Even today, there are some international laws which go by this Western thinking. So there is this international maritime law for shipwrecks. It says that if a wreck is old enough, then the original owner loses its claim on the cargo. And anyone who finds it gets to keep it. Finders are keepers. So this is also in today's law. And this colonial attitude, we see it not only in terms of treasures, of material things, but even for knowledge. So whenever colonialists found, this is in 19th century, 20th century, and even today this continues, whenever native knowledge is found, it is simply kept. They do not mention the sources. They do not honor the original finders. They do not honor the original researchers. And they have passed it on as if their own knowledge. So it can be different skills. It can be different trades. It can be different traditional medicines, mathematics, science, astronomy, organic farming, any of these areas. So all of this knowledge, it has been taken from the natives of Africa, of South America, from the Red Indians, from the Eskimos, from Africa, India, from all over the place. So this is basically treasure hunting. So treasure hunting, not just gold and silver, but also knowledge and games. So here is a treasure hunt of the Mokshapatam. So this Mokshapata of India that we talked about earlier, the British found this game when they came to India, 17th, 18th century. And it is a very entertaining game. So they took it with them to England. And once it went to England, it was appropriated. While appropriating, everything that was Hindu about this game was stripped off. So, the philosophy which was associated with this game, which is the karma, siddhanta, which is the cycle of birth and death, and the ultimate goal of any life, which is moksha, these three things were removed from that game. And it was renamed as virtue rewarded and vice punished. So the snakes and ladders remained there, and this game came to be called as virtues rewarded, vice punished. But as time went by, this philosophy, it did not catch up with the game so much as it was connected to Mokshapatam. So this virtue and vice philosophy, it fell off. And what remained was only a square grid with numbers. So this game was hunted, this treasure of Mokshapatam. It was appropriated, but even in appropriating, it was like, half baked. Only half of it was taken away. The real essence of that game doesn't come up. And yeah, this is the story of Mokshapatam and treasure hunt. With this, I will stop.
Thank you so much, Deepali ji. Wonderful. And some natural questions come up now, because these games were designed with a purpose. And I love the pictures that you showed from the ancient Mohenjo-daro and thousands of years back. It definitely showed a lifestyle. And one of the things I noticed was that all men head was always covered.
Yes.
And women also. And people say that fashion was not a statement over there. We know Sarandri, Mahabharata shows it, Ramayana shows it, that Sita Maya has assistants dressing her for Sri Ram. So it was an old industry. It's not something new. But we have been told that all these things are new, and in the ignorance of I would say, again, go back to the Western academics, is that because for them, the world started from 13th century. Before that, they were all fighting. And even in the Greek history, even in the ancient Roman history also, we have examples of people dressing up for certain occasions, women dressing up, men dressing up. So why this, I would call it an academic hypocrisy, to just ignore everything in the past because they want to prove that they brought the civilization, or they brought this try to civilize the world. What is, according to you, is the hypocrisy here?
I really cannot tell what must be the thinking behind it. It must be, I don't know. I think it is because after the advent of Christianity, the ancient roots, they were cut off. And once the ancient roots, because all of them were Romans before, they were Celts, they were Germanic people, they were Nordic people, they were Greeks, basically. So when they cut off their roots, they lost their identity. And somehow they had to find their identity and show that, they were better. Maybe that is the reason why they, started counting only from a certain period.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is probably related to that identity crisis.
I mean, it's a academic like foolishness to say that the world started 4,000 years back, and before that everything was some age, and today we are in Iron Age and Copper Age and Gold Age. I don't even understand those ages, because the metals were known forever to the humanity. Gold was a principally traded currency. Even in Ramayana time, the currency was nishk, and Mahabharata time also currency was nishk. That was a global currency, nishk. So and these games are such a wonderful way to teach children about, like you said, about karma, important principles like karma and dharma, and deliverance from karma cycle. All these things are shown by the games. Nowadays, most of the games are just for enjoyment and having fun. and it's nothing bad with fun, but if there is a purposefully driven fun, then it has more fun actually, isn't it right? Like even a
Yeah,
gambler, if you remove the money from the table, gambling loses entire charm. So the purpose is to earn the wealth. So
yeah.
so for a day-to-day enjoyment also there has to be some purpose, otherwise everyone is wasting their time. What do you have to add on that?
Absolutely, you have so well put. There has to be a purpose. That is artha. So dharma, artha, kam, and moksha. So the purpose has to be there. And simple fun, just fun is like an addiction. We see that people are getting addicted to playing online games, and it's simply wasting time. If there is no purpose, if there is nothing that nothing to be gained from playing those games.
That's right. Yeah. So Deepaliji, thank you so much, and I think I really liked Chaturanga part that you mentioned, and in fact I got the chess uh, the chess what do you call it,
Pieces.
pieces based on
Yeah.
Chaturanga for me, and
Okay.
they're available in Rajasthan and they're available in different
Mhm.
parts of India, even today. And one thing they
Yes.
did was they put the cross on the king. So
Yes.
just to show that again here also the colonization started. Like
Absolutely.
even the cross on the
Absolutely.
king. So I would advise all the people from India, 1.3 billion people, not to buy any chess which has a cross on the top, because it is against Chaturanga. It's not, it's adharmic, it becomes adharmic again, because they just want to prove that the cross is winning everywhere time. You have to protect the king. But the purpose of Chaturanga was to protect the Dharma, not the king, because the king was representing Dharma. So to that level they have gone. Even the games they have changed to what they want to do, and all these things came in 14th century, 15th century, not before that. Before that they were still fighting amongst themselves. In fact, the European colonization of the Roman Catholic Church was completed in 18th century, not before that. And 20th
Yeah.
century the US was won, which is 1908, not 1776. 1908 is when the Roman Catholic Church declared the this is based on the last book I wrote, Gold, Glory, and God.
Okay.
This was
Uh-huh.
this is the ultimate goal they had. Ultimate goal they had. So the we have to reverse this colonization. What is your view on that?
Absolutely. That decolonization is our way to reclaiming our identity and reclaiming our past
I really
and
like
our way of life.
I really like the word you use, natives, because see, it's really the natives of every land, including Europe. Europe,
Yeah.
they were not either Roman Catholics or Muslims. The natives. Natives all had, like the Germanic tribes you mentioned, Celts you mentioned, Francos, Visigoths. There's so many different communities were there, all connected to ancient Greek, which was nothing but Hinduism, Sanatan Dharma.
Yeah.
And somehow we have been made to forget that ancient Greeks had no culture. Ancient Greeks used to wear like Indian Pandits, one chadar, one dhoti. Dhoti you can tie in multiple ways, even in India.
Yeah.
If you go to
Yeah.
North India, South India, East, everywhere dhoti is tied in a different way. But it's the same thing. It's a single piece of cloth to cover the whole body. All those things were deleted from even Europe also. Even like in the crusades within Europe were worse than crusades in Africa and Asia. In Africa and Asia, they had to adapt to the local culture. They call it inculturation. And in Asia also, they had to adapt to syncretism and inculturation. But in Europe, it was just plain violence, just military conquest of the church.
Yeah. The Europe actually suffered the most.
The most. And they made others also suffer.
Yeah.
The entire colonization started from Papal Bull in 1493. And what has happened to South America? What has happened to Asia, India, South, Indonesia? I mean, what Dutch did in Indonesia is practically nobody knows what they did. Philippines is the worst category of violence that has happened in the name of civilizing them. The only country which defeated them was India. Marthanda Varma
Yeah.
in 1741 was the first straight military defeat to Dutch. And I had the good fortune of staying in his palace in Kerala recently.
Mhm.
And I was goosebumps all over my body, because this is the same king who offered the entire Kerala to Padmanath Swami. So Kerala belongs to Padmanath Swami, no one else. Its land is already given. So now we have to come back. Very good presentation, because it decolonizing our minds from the through games actually, and or building dharmic values through games. This is a great presentation.
Thank you so much, Adityaji.
Thank you.
And thanks to all the viewers who have been listening patiently. Thank you.
Thank you all. Namaste.